When I tell you about this, it's an absolute no-brainer. But then people are like, no, you're gonna leave my oil here. But then at some point we also realize that we are the market. If we don't start making the changes towards new energy, then the change will not happen. I feel so absolutely privileged to be able to combine something that I am being good at with something that is my passion, but ultimately something that makes a difference.
Welcome to a new Energy Talk special. Today we've headed north to Finland, a market that knows a thing or two about resilience, dark and very cold winters, and why energy is never just an abstract policy debate. It is personal, economic, and very real. And that's exactly why this conversation matters, because the energy transition is no longer about whether change is coming, it's about who designs the next system, who creates value in it, and who is getting left behind. So today, I'm joined by Ricardo, CEO of 1KOMMA5 Finland. We've talked about his journey, what new energy actually means in the Finnish market, and why the battle for flexibility and energy abundance is just getting started. Welcome, Ricardo. It's really a pleasure to have you here in the new Energy Talk, and it's really a special thing because I'm here in Finland, in your country. But before we start to talk about Finland, about the energy here, about AI and all the future vision, let's start to learn something about you. Who is Ricardo beyond the title of being a managing director in Finland?
Very much. And first of all, welcome here in Finland, and it's a long way from home. And it's a huge pleasure to have you guys fly all the way to spend some time together. And I am a husband and a father of 3 boys.
Wow.
And I was originally born in Brazil. So my story tracks back to another country. But my wife, being Finnish and all, and through the stories of love life, and I find myself in this beautiful country.
Amazing. And what is maybe different here if you compare Brazil guys' culture to the Finnish guys?
Well, I have now, lived outside of Brazil for longer than I have lived in Brazil. So, my entire being, it's a bit of a, in the gray area. I have lived a long time in New Zealand. I have lived in Australia. Wow. So, I'm a little bit of an international product in any case. Amazing. So, but more so, we tend to find that Finnish people, they're a little bit more reserved. Which seems to be a little bit different than what I'm used to. The hugging and the kissing and all the, Brazilian flair, it's a bit different. But when you embrace it, it's a beautiful thing, and Finnish people as a whole, they are very honest, and one of the things I found, after being in Finland for so long is that when somebody asks, how are you, they really mean it, they really want to know. Whereas, in most of other cultures, it's more like a greeting of sorts, hey, how you going? Sure. Of which, hey, I'm good, how are you going? And, it's like, I don't really want to know, you don't really want to know. But then here in Finland, they very much want to know. And to this very day, I find it very fun, because I'm very chatty. I'm in the shop, I'm paying for my groceries. And then, it's like, hey, how's your day? And then the cashier, she starts, hey, I woke up at 6 a.m. It's like, okay, I have to go. But, but I love the culture and I really embrace it.
This sounds really nice. And if we talk a bit about your story, now you're an entrepreneur and really managing director here in the market. What was your motivation to start to work in the energy area? Was it like about technology, about electricity? Was it more the entrepreneurship? And it doesn't matter where I start. Yeah?
Sure.
So maybe tell a little bit how came that you sit here and now with me with 1K5.
Very much so. Look, everything started back in New Zealand, and this was. I want to say a good 18 years back. I originally left Brazil together with my brother. We moved over to New Zealand, and I was only at the age of 14, 15 at the time.
Work and travel, or what was the reason?
We wanted to just, break away from being in Brazil. We decided that we would like to move and just live a different life. Brazil didn't seem that exciting at the time, so we wanted to dream a little bit bigger. Oh. And then we found ourselves in New Zealand at the time. And of course, I had every intention to continue to go to school and so on. But as you can imagine, as a 15-year-old, I didn't pre-plan very much. And so we ran into troubles with, visas and international student fees and so forth. which then led me kind of, to get pretty much straight into the work life. And then how I fell into the energy world was a bit that I was working as a chef at a time. And, I loved cooking, and, it was really, I was super passionate about it. But, I worked for a 5-star hotel at a time, and and as soon it became clear to me that if I wanted to progress, I had this very, big hierarchy in front of me. So, I was the lowest chef on a minimum wage, and with all my ambition, I wanted to do more and more and more. And soon I realized there is all these, people that have to, either leave or die, or whatever they have to do for me to be able to progress. And that's a little bit how then I fell into sales. I wanted to kind of find a field whereas I could just, just produce, and sort of kind of break away from this ceiling of what you can be. And it was super cool to me. And then I went on a door-to-door job. So from a chef to a door-to-door job.
Interesting. Totally different thing.
Totally different. You're
from
only 16 and 17, you're not thinking these things through. It was a commission-only job. But then I was working for an electricity company in New Zealand, and it was called the Meridian Energy. And they used to, the differentiator was that they produced 100% renewable energy. Right, and that's a little bit the first time it really came into my radar, the whole environmental issue and so forth. So then, I used to go door on door selling electricity. So having people switch from, their dirty electricity providers to a renewable energy one. So that gave me a good insight of, kind of the world of energy. Then fast forward a few years, then I moved into Australia at a time, and I very much wanted to stay in that field of, because I was able to, in many ways, combine something that I was good at, because I was very good at sales, and I was really able to communicate well and so forth, with something that actually makes a difference, so, and renewable energy being one. And just at the time when I moved to Australia, which is somewhere around 2011, thereabouts, the Australian government had just introduced the first solar rebates. So, it was really like catching on fire. So, when I moved there, of course, I'm looking for a job, and I'm looking in the newspapers, and, it's all about solar. And then I decided then, hey, it's a great place to be, because I can continue this trend of, following what I love to do, as well as being able to make a difference at the same time.
And then you moved to Finland. This was about love, you said already. So
Yes.
You moved, and then was it directly clear, okay, I will move on with my story of energy, but now in a new market? Or how came up that you started here also with an own company?
Yeah, so it was very much in the line, so I met with Kati, during our travels, and, quickly fell in love. And then, her being from Finland, we decided that, hey, it's a great idea to leave, the Australian sun, all the warmth, and let's move to Finland. And quite
the wind,
honestly,
but sun as well.
Yes, and, it was crazy, because I remember when I left Australia, it was a December day, it was like 38 degrees in Perth. And when I landed in Helsinki, it was like minus 14 degrees. It was like a 50-degree difference, But I had never seen snow. I was super excited,
Wow.
It didn't matter. And the main driver was that, when I lived all those years in Australia and I really saw the boom of solar, I always felt like, had I been an entrepreneur at the right time,
Yes.
I would have been able to kind of capture the boom. And when we arrived in Finland, and all of a sudden there is no PV anywhere, there's no batteries, there's no energy, there's no renewables really being deployed, in a household level.
Yes.
I thought if we would just now establish ourselves as a company, the boom and the rush will eventually come. And when it does, then we are the market leader. So it was very much, I kind of felt like I got a second chance at kind of making, sort of through the wave of that was about to come. But since that I had lived through that already, it's something that I predicted, and I would say it was even an advantage, because most of the Finnish market, they couldn't kind of see it coming.
Exactly. And what do you think, what is the reason for that? Because sun is not that topic here, or energy is not, it's already cheap, and it was not that urgent to change something? Or what was the difference why Australia was that far at that point of time, and here you have seen like no PV on the roof?
Yeah, it was a variety of factors there, and I would say in Australia they were very heavily subsidized. So at the time when we were selling solar into Australian market, people already knew solar was a good thing. It was very affordable at the time. people had the money to do it. So it was basically a no-brainer. And fast forward to Finland, we had the lowest energy prices in Europe. No one else had the PV, so nobody really knew it was really a thing. Then, you know, the amortization period of the systems was very long. So, but being in the Nordics, you know, it's an inevitable situation where we're switching to renewables. So, you know, we realized early on that it will take a lot of education into the consumer market, but sooner or later people will understand that you are better off, you know, producing your own energy. And that was very much the driver. And of course, we were young and we were a bit clueless, you know, so we were not doing any major, you know, market studies. We just said, okay, this is what we love doing. There's an opportunity ahead, and let's lead the market because there's no players in that space at the moment. And that's kind of how we kicked off.
Cool. And you said that you started, especially in New Zealand, with that door-to-door sales, right? Is it the same here in the market, or what is your main, so to say, way in the operation when it comes to sales?
There was, again, another big advantage we've had, right? Because I had a ton of experience not only in solar, but also on the sales field. So essentially what we did is we copied exactly the same sales style that was working in Australia for so many years, and then we brought it to Finland. But it needed to be done because people were uneducated about it. And then essentially that's what we did. You know, we knocked on the door and we booked a meeting where an expert would come and tell you about the benefits of solar energy. And at the time we were speaking about solar only. And Finnish people, they were very used to having, you know, a small solar panel in their cabin somewhere with a small battery so they can, you know, charge their phone and they can have a little bit of lights. But we were saying, no, you know, you can power your entire home, you know. So it was very difficult at first, you know. I would say that looking back now, and I think a lot of people around us, they really did think it was a crazy idea, you know, because despite having the very long days, we have, you know, 6 months of pretty much complete darkness, you know. So then everyone was a bit, you know, like, how is this going to work?
Exactly. Yeah. And now you said something interesting, like looking back. If you look back, what are milestones where you would say, okay, I'm really proud of what we achieved here as a team? So like the milestones.
Yeah, I would say it's very much that, right? We took on the role that we need to educate the market, that we understand that this is something that is not going to happen overnight, and we were, you know, in no hurry to scale. You know, what we would do is start small, we would do a good job, and we'd go through this education period. And you know, I'm very proud of that, because now that I look, especially in the area that I live, you know, when I moved there was no solar. And, you know, and when you drive around now, you see it everywhere. And we were for sure the pioneers of that, because, you know, we knocked on every door every year, and we kept on telling people, hey, there's a group installation in your area. This is something that you need, you know, that until, you know, people started to understand themselves that this is a good idea.
You said being pioneer. This would be interesting for me. Are there more pioneers? Are there more companies to do the same? How's that structure here when it comes to competition?
The competition is very fragmented, you know, like the Finnish market is still mostly consisting of, you know, very small companies.
Yes.
And this is not particularly a bad thing, you know, but it's still being such a young market, we do lack a lot of like expertise, you know. So if you look upon the amount of energy companies, still there's a lot of solar companies out there, you know, that the revenue usually would not exceed, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 million euros a year. You know, so companies that are actually doing over 10 million euros in this space, I would say, you know, there's 3 or 4 or 5 companies at most at the moment in Finland that is able to cross the 10 million euro revenue per year.
Interesting. And then you said earlier, you're good with prediction, right? Especially something bigger, something new. What was your way or what have you seen that a corporation like ours with 1K5 is maybe the next step for you? What was the reason that you say, okay, I do this, I join the group?
Very well. I think this all kicked back around 2022, right? We had the energy crisis, and we had here in Finland, there was, again, you know, talking back about the, you know, the rush is going to come. Like in 2022, like I felt like, okay, now the rush has finally come. You know, we went in from doing roughly 2 million euros in revenue, and, you know, to roughly hitting about 10 million euros revenue exactly the year after. And with the rush, then you start to also notice that you are very vulnerable by being a smaller player, not only in terms of technology on what you can procure, but everything else in terms of cash flow and, you know, being able to have like a safety net for employees in terms of, being able to keep up with your payroll and so on and so forth. And back then, as the market took off really strong, it took off, of course, with the rest of Europe. And I'm assuming in Germany, you guys had a very similar experience. And therefore, we had a massive issue with supplies, right? So now we got the sales, because previous to that, the sales was the issue. We are educating everyone, to get a sale was really hard. We had to go there 3 or 4 times and convince and convince and convince. Now the sales were flying. People were happy to pay anything. They just wanted to get away from the electricity companies. And then the next issue came, that all of a sudden, the handful of suppliers that are importing the hardware into Finland, they could no longer provide. So now our sales are growing, our backlog is increasing, and then we have 2 major issues. One of them being hardware. Now we are no longer able to deliver what we sold. And number 2, we have a massive bottleneck on the installation capacity. And then when we were first in conversations with 1KOMMA5 and realizing the scale and the vision, we also very soon realized that if we want to get it to the next level, this will be very difficult to do on like a family-run scale, underfunded, that we will really need to join, a market leader to be able to bring the same concept into Finland.
I see, yeah. And of course, the amazing brand and the marketing, right? This was also a reason.
Yes, the colors and the CMO.
No, but totally understand, especially if we come from the problem side, right? What you needed also to grow. And now, how many customers do you have here?
I would say at the moment we are ranging somewhere around 6,000 to 7,000 customers. And we kicked off exactly 10 years ago. So it's been a journey. It took its time. But I also, I really feel that it was the right time. Because we could, of course, try to scale in the first years, but you can't, right? The market is not there. So I felt like it's been quite a perfect story like that. We arrive in year 10. And then, the market, it's kind of coming on with it.
Yeah. And is it helping for the sales process to say, okay, we have also experience in Sweden, in Denmark, in Germany and so on? Or is that not a thing for the people?
Well, yes and no. I think, there's different customers type. I would say as a consumer myself, I love the feeling that 1KOMMA5 in Finland is able to give, which is your local expertise, is your local service, but with a large background,
and also global vision, right? And
exactly
so,
right.
Same in Germany.
But of course you have, customers in smaller towns. They might prefer to deal, with your local Finnish installer, which is perfectly fine. But I would say, from my perspective, this is the best of both worlds, because you get a Finnish installer at your doorstep, which is highly qualified. You get your Finnish customer service, but you have the expertise and the vision, of a worldwide company.
Yeah, exactly.
At the same time.
And if we talk about worldwide company, but then as you said, and I think that's really one of our strengths, to have that local experience, right? If you look into the local market right now, is it more about the solar panels on the roof? Is it more about the storage? Is it about the infrastructure, like smart meters? What is the main issue right now when you want to scale, right? And scale faster?
Yes, I would say the market is a little bit shifting as we speak, and an interesting thing has come, and I'll come to this point in a second, is that, we have been sitting and watching the international markets for a long time now, right? And we see Sweden, in Sweden, they don't have that much more people than us, but their market, it's 5 or 6 times bigger. And then, it's always been in our minds, okay, the market will eventually change, the market will eventually catch up. But then at some point, we also realize that we are the market. Right, that if we don't start making the changes towards new energy and towards bringing batteries into Finland, then the change will not happen as one of the largest providers, right? So then we shift the mentality a bit, rather than let's wait for the market to change, to, let's change the market. So we a little bit took back the, let's re-educate the market, which we are back there. And we started already this last year. So, rather than being like PV only company, now, we are your complete one-stop shop, where we are able to provide, the car chargers, the heat pumps, the solar and the battery, and the energy AI, which we'll get to in a second. But back to the question, the market, I feel that they are very much following the steps of 1KOMMA5, right? So roughly at the moment, 40% of all of our order intake is customers that are retrofitting batteries into their systems. And about 25% of it is PV plus batteries. So now we have really be able to break away from the PV only kind of mentality. We are, in terms of overall, amount of orders we get each month, I would say somewhere between 10 and 15% is PV only. So the market is very much kind of shifting away from that PV only. So maybe batteries being maybe the hottest topic at the moment.
I see. And maybe also for my insights, how's it structured, the entire system? We talked a little bit about competitors, right, and that fragmented situation. How's it about other companies, but also about regulations, about the grid system? Can you explain us a little bit more how this entire system fit together?
Very much. Yes. Well, Finland, surprisingly, because we're a country known for very high regulations and safety standards and so on. But the overall PV, if we speak about that for a second, the PV penetration in Finland at the moment is still very low. And the grid and the smart meters that have been implemented already many years ago. So we feel at the moment we have a situation where there is no grid congestion, there is no grid issues. So therefore, there is really no regulations per se. Of course, you have to respect the grid connection, applications, but essentially you can pretty much install anything as long as it's compatible with the Finnish grid. So. But of course, we can see it on the other markets, the grid issues that deploying renewable energy comes. So, of course, every decision that we take already to this very day is to secure the customers and provide them with a product bundle that when this eventually comes, because it will, that they already secured and the package that they now have installed, the energy bundle, it's already catered for the future problems that they don't know it's coming.
Exactly.
But we know it's coming because we have a full insight, to the Swedish market, to the Dutch market and so forth.
Yeah, interesting. And I mean, sometimes it's good to have less regulations, right? But is it that your government has not that focus on energy? And also when it comes to image and communication, right? Maybe, sometimes it can help, right? If they have also that on their radar and in the agenda.
Yeah, it feels like that the government, they are just standing back at the moment, right? They basically are not really for it. So there's no subsidies, there's no help, there is really no, monetary incentive there is for heat pumps. If you get rid of oil, so that has been a subsidy that has been there for some time. It actually just ended now. But for PV and batteries and energy, they're not really against it. They're not really for it. So there is pretty much no, there's just nothing. So, and I would say that it's mostly a negative thing because, in our eyes, because we have the expertise, we have the team, we have the project managers that we can handle regulations. And we want to make sure that the project gets done, according to the legislation. But when you have a very soft legislation, of course, that encourages pretty much any quality of work going in. And of course, you can have a ton of, reputational problems in the industry because pretty much any company can do whatever they want in terms of installation quality.
Yeah, interesting. The only good thing is, right, if you have a less regulated market and maybe less subsidiaries, that you have really a market where the best technology can win, right? Because, people decide where they have the best advantage. And this is maybe the helpful thing in that setup.
Yeah, it certainly is, but as with most markets, when you are so deregulated, that also promotes, very, short-term thinking providers, right? And that then it really drives a market that is very, kilowatt hour price-based, so it becomes like a price competition to the most of it. So, we are very much, because that is our main message, that it's not about the price, right? It's about the lifetime value of what you will get when you get a system that is supplied by 1KOMMA5 here in Finland. And yes, price is important. You cannot outprice yourself out of the market. But ultimately, when you have an investment of which the idea is to help you reduce your costs, and if you do that incorrectly, that is a lot more likely to lead into more costs.
Absolutely.
Rather than less costs.
Yeah. And what is the main motivation right now for people in the market? Is it the price, or is it, as you said earlier, like they want to be independent from an energy company? What is the main reason, if you knock to the door, why they buy it at the end? Yeah,
I would say, our market is still very much about the dollars and cents, right? People are worried about saving money. because historically Finland has had the lowest energy prices in Europe for pretty much as long as I remember. There's a ton of fossil fuel energy being produced, and high energy prices hasn't really been a problem up until 2022, right? So then energy prices went to 50 cents a kilowatt, and all of a sudden we're in a situation where it's very cold. You need energy,
of course,
right? Most homes are using 15,000 kilowatts a year to 25,000 kilowatts a year. And when you have a winter day and electricity prices are 35 cents and you're using 200 kilowatts on the very day, you're paying 30 to 50 euros for a single day worth of energy. And then people will receive, their January bill and it's 600 or 700 euros, right? So then, of course, this has very much, now people understood that this is a thing and it can happen. And with the whole world electrification, EVs, heat pumps coming, that this is a trend that is only, about to get worse. So I would say this day, when we speak to a customer, there is a handful of customers that are worried about independence. Of course, we have, our good friends of Russia right next door, and there, there is all the volatility around Europe. So, of course, self-reliance it's something that people are looking for, but it's still ultimately, we are very much looking at, what is this going to save me? That's where the market is at the moment.
I see. Yeah, and interesting, as you said, interesting times with all the trouble and maybe also security issues, right? So independency, right, is one topic. Do you think they see already that the new oil, the gold, so to say, in future is about who is dealing with flexibility and really the energy abundance of wind and sunlight? Because then it could be really a source, and Finland could be really strong in selling and dealing with energy, right? Because right now it's a bit about who is sitting on oil or gas, right? But this could be the new leaders in future. If you have understood how you can deal with flexibility. Is that already a topic in the vision of the people or the government? Or
it certainly is not, right? So, but then again, this is exactly our core message to the customers, right? It's like when we sit with you and we have like a tailor design energy package together with energy AI on it. What we will do is we will give you access to an entire new energy market. Because what you're used to right now is that you are using electricity when the price is at its highest point, and you have no other choice but to pay for it because you're heating a home, your kids are having shower, and there is no other way about it. So it's been one of these things that, it is how it is. And what we are saying to you is that, okay, let's forget about the dollars and cents at the moment, and let's say, if you'd have access to next day's electricity price, 0 cents, 15 cents, 20 cents, which price would you pick? Let's say you pick the lowest price. With the correct energy device provided by 1KOMMA5, you can have that price, for the majority of the day. And that's what we are kind of coming in, we want to show you that there is a new way to use electricity, and and it's reliable, it's clean, and more importantly, it's a lot cheaper than what is currently available in the market. So that's kind of what we are trying to take the conversation towards, which is our entire new energy topic.
Exactly. And I mean, the amazing thing is, right, you talk about it's cheaper, you save costs, but, and this is what right, the vision with energy AI, if you deal with energy AI in the right way, you can earn money with really consume energy in the right way, right? And this is, I mean, even what I really like in the message of 1K5, it's not only about saving costs, it's really about earning money with using energy in the right way, in the rhythm of wind and sunlight. And that's a nice thing, right?
Well, it's really great, and I would say especially because Finland, they did end up adopting the PV only strategy, right? And it's been a really big problem for people that, yes, in summer, it's great, right? The sun is shining non-stop, as you see outside, and you get a ton of energy. But then it comes to winter time, then your PV is essentially not producing anything.
But you have wind.
But we have wind, yes. And then now that you're able to optimize it with a battery, together with energy AI, now we can extend your savings, much like you said about earning money, 365 days a year. And I think this is the real kicker, because when we were selling PV only, there was a hole in the logical story, right? That is like, okay, when I need energy the most, I cannot have it. And they were like, okay, but there's a battery. But still without intelligence, You still have a hole in the story, right? But then, I come home and I use power, but then at night, maybe power is super high, but now my battery is empty again, and I'm back, So now we are in a place where you can have 365 days, worth of savings, and then, it really brings you to a whole new, way to be able to use energy, I think that's super exciting.
Amazing. And how is it about finding talents to deal with that and to support you to spread the message? Is it easy to find talents right now, to convince them?
Well, we are, try to break away more and more so, from the, let's say, the old sales, game of having to really re-educate everyone. But talent at the moment isn't that easy to come by, right? And I think as the market is picking up again, finding good talent, I guess, like most of other countries, it hasn't been easy. But of course, people do recognize the mission that we are after, right? That we are not a solar company at all, and we are not a sales company. We are a company whereas we want to educate the customer about having decentralized energy and giving you access to a whole entire new energy market than what you thought it was possible. And then I would say that the talent that we find that buy into this, they are usually very successful. They're successful at transmitting the message, and they're successful at deploying more energy systems out there. But people that come and work for us with, let's say, the old sales mentality, they usually don't succeed.
Yeah, I see. For me, it's one of the most exciting fields right now, but I think maybe brainwashed. So, but hopefully, many students and people will see that. You talk a lot about the education part, right? Looking from a German perspective, this energy AI topic is sometimes critical, right? Because we're often a bit like, oh, AI, what is AI doing here? How is it here? Because at least from my perspective, the Finnish guys are quite digital. Everything is really, it's already digitized. How is that angle for you? And when you talk to the hopefully new customers, potential customers?
Yes, it's a bit of a division, right? I would say on the younger generation, I'd say, let's say anybody, under 45, 50, Finland, they have a lot of tech expertise. And for them, this is a great solution, right? Because you get, the techie feeling, you get the AI bundled into it, and then you have your own battery, you have lower license, people love that. So it kind of combines, the perfect emotional and logical kind of purchase, and people absolutely love that. But when you go towards the older generations, and not necessarily only older, but you still have a lot of people that are worried about technology, right? And this was a huge surprise to me when we moved on to the heat pump field, right? Because when I first heard about the business cases of heat pump, it was amazing. You have a 4,000 euro subsidy from the government, and then if you have oil and if you remove the oil, then the amortization period of a heat pump could be as low as 3 or 4 years. So when I heard about it, I was like, why are we not in this space? So of course, sure enough, we moved on into the heat pump space. And the first surprise to me was that how much some people still love their oil heating. And that was like
same in Germany.
It was like totally crazy, because I'm thinking, hey, this will pay for itself super fast. You don't have oil burning under your home. When I tell you about this, it's an absolute no-brainer. And then, but then people are like, no, you're gonna leave my oil here. So actually, for the big part of the first sales we did, people were keeping their oils and adding like a hybrid heat pump option to kind of run it sideways. So, so it really shows that there is a portion of the market that they are not kind of yet ready for the next step. But it is understandable. Oil machine is a simple machine. When it's minus 25 degrees outside, it's quite crucial to have heating. You can't afford to not have it.
But now I have to really ask question for our German listeners.
Yes.
Is it really getting warm in Finland? If you have that, it's so funny that really every German person is asking this question. This can't be. A heat pump cannot really warm up my house. And you have this winters here, right? So please tell them, is it possible?
It's certainly possible.
Is it getting warm?
Yes, it definitely is. And I think Finland has roughly 50% of all homes have a heat pump.
Wow.
And it's a large country, from north to south, and it gets, to minus 25 degrees. So heat pump has great performances, up to minus 25 degree. It's really an efficient, heating system.
Yes.
By all means, it definitely works. It's the same in Sweden, same in Denmark.
Amazing. when we talk a little bit about the future, right, and what, you achieved a lot here. It's really amazing to see how the team is growing and so on. And also, as you said, also really the progress in education with the people here in the country. What is maybe first question, which is still the biggest roadblocker right now why you cannot scale that fast if you really have to narrow it down?
We are still on the education process, that it's not yet a given that switching to a new energy, which we are promoting, it's a no-brainer. And it is. But we are not yet at a point where a consumer who buys a new home or who builds a new home, that they automatically understand, hey, listen, there's no point following the centralized energy. There's no point being at the mercy of the power companies. We need a new solution. And the new solution is is with 1KOMMA5. So we are not there yet. So I would say that the biggest hurdle at the moment and at scale, it's that. Because once this becomes like a household knowledge and a household name, then the product itself is so good that you don't have to sell, right? It does sell itself. It's a necessity. It's not, maybe something I should have. No, it's just definitely a necessity. Yes. But we are not at a point that the market understands. However, we have really only introduced this roughly 12 months ago. So when I look upon where we were in a market of solar only versus where we are now, where we basically are not really even installing solar only, we have made like a massive progress already. So I don't think we are that far from the time that, that this is.
Yeah. How does new energy look like in Finland right now?
With our energy AI, the best part about our entire value proposition is that the interest of the customer and the interest of the AI is very well aligned, right? So the way it works is that when we design the system, the energy system for you, which usually consists of a PV system, a battery, and sometimes a heat pump, the way it works is we give you access to 4 different markets here in Finland, 4 different energy markets. And the first energy market is the spot price optimization, right? So it's being able to charge your battery either from your PV system or from the grid when prices are very low, and then being able to discharge, said energy into the expensive hours of the day into your home. So, when you see that the prices are very high, in the middle of the day, you don't have to worry because we charge the battery when prices are much lower. Therefore, giving you access to a whole new energy price per kilowatt hour, right? And that's usually where lies the most of the savings, because it's a bit like you have access to the next day, right? You know exactly the hourly rates. And then the battery will charge and discharge according to what makes the most sense financially for your home at that given moment. So that's the first layer of what the energy device can do. The second layer is the peak shaving, right? So Finland is just about to introduce and has introduced in some areas that you essentially will get a penalty for using electricity a certain amount at certain times of the day. So when the electricity is the most expensive, usually there's the highest demand, and especially in a winter day, you cannot help to use energy because you have to heat the home. So then they will penalize you for using energy in those hours. But that penalty will happen twice a day, right? So that you're using energy in the morning, use it in the evening. So it's essentially a penalty for using electricity. So with our energy AI device, we are able to shift your consumption, right? Much like in the previous point, you can charge your battery when the prices are very low, which is usually in the middle of the night. And when prices are high, we're discharging, therefore shifting your consumption to the off-peak hours. So therefore, for the areas of Finland that already has it, they can already benefit from this. And for the areas that don't have it, but it is coming, they are already then shielded from that. So that's kind of the second layer of what the energy I can do. And then the third layer will be your self-optimization, right? You have the PV, and then sometimes prices are in the negative point, sometimes prices are very high, so we can, charge your battery from the grid. We can discharge your battery into the grid for optimizing the feed-in tariff. We can steer your solar energy into the home while the battery discharges. So there's many directions where we can send electricity with the idea of not only optimizing your consumption, but of course making the best financial decisions. So like lower your electricity price at the same time.
Absolutely. When you talk about low prices, is a negative price also a thing in Finland?
It is, yes,
It is.
and more, common than it has been. That sometimes is very much in the minus, sometimes it's very much on the plus. And let's say if you have PV, on the roof, on a day like today, you're producing a ton of energy, and if electricity is in the minus, you're putting power into the grid, and you're essentially getting penalized, right? So the energy I will completely stop you from doing that.
Exactly.
And then the fourth layer of the market is the reserve market. So we also have all of our 1KOMMA5 products approved into the reserve market. So, and the frequency market essentially works in a way that the grid company, they want to have access to your battery, just really for being able to balance the grid. But this is not the main focus of the battery, of course. But the best value proposition is this, that these decisions are made via the AI on an hourly basis. So I can see the day ahead, I can see the peak shaving, I can see the PV production, I can see everything. So every hour of the day, I will make a decision on what is the best way to place the bid for your battery. Is it self-consumption? Is it PV optimizing? Is it spot price? Is it selling into the grid? Is it going into the reserve market? So essentially, you have a device that every hour of the day, for as long as you live in that property, trading your energy for you at the best available price gain, day in and day out. And for as long as you have that, you never have to worry about high energy prices. You never have to worry about when to use electricity, because you know the energy price that you have, it's extremely and substantially lower than what's available in the market. And that's really the promise of 1KOMMA5 and the new energy.
Amazing. Do some people challenge, because now, if I listen to you, it sounds a bit like, okay, there's load, then deload, load and deload with my battery. What is about the performance of the battery?
And that's, when our amazing team, of 1KOMMA5 really come into play. The battery that we provide to customers here, which is our 1KOMMA5 2.0 battery, has specifically been designed for these microcycles. So we are not trying to provide a service and fit into a battery that can possibly do this. We have designed the battery specifically to do this. And it's something completely unique in Finland, because unfortunately, being a very fragmented market, most companies are selling what the wholesalers are able to bring, despite of the quality. And we are not looking at the game at all. We don't want to compete. We don't want to have anything to do with it. And, and it's not even particularly a bad thing. But what we are saying is that if you do not have the right energy device, the end goal will be different, and then if you have your battery only on the reserve market, if the reserve market isn't paying, your battery is essentially useless. And yes, sometimes the reserve market can pay, but then the times that it doesn't, then the battery, it's just not doing its full potential. And when you have an energy AI combined with the 1KOMMA5 bundle, that is always done. And you know that it's not something you have to worry about. You can go on about your life, you can use energy how you want, and then the AI will make these decisions for you to ensure that you have access to a different market, different energy market at all times. And more importantly, that you have access to a cleaner and green energy at a lower price, basically forever, for as long as you live there.
And often many people don't know that also with good prediction, early signals, also good support on your side with the traders, you can improve and optimize the life cycle of a battery. Even if we do deload and load and deload and deload in microcycles, as I said. So here AI also supports the life cycle and the guarantees of devices, right? So amazing bundle package at the end.
Very much.
Is vehicle to grid already a topic here in the market? Because now we talked a lot about the battery, right? Battery which you have in your house. But now you have really huge battery power in cars, right? And you have tons of electric cars on the roads here. That's amazing. That's really, maybe we have half or even not half of that amount in Germany. So is that already a topic that we could do grid thing?
Yeah, it's coming. Absolutely. Yeah. I believe it was something like 60% of all new car sales are now EVs in Finland. So as you drive around, you see they're everywhere. So it certainly is a coming topic. I would say we still have regulation issues from the grid side.
Which one?
Yeah, so from the transmission companies. So you are still not legally able to do it, but it's, you know, I mean, together with a procurement team, it is something we are getting ready for, and it is something that we will eventually have. But as of today, we don't have it yet. But even without vehicle to grid, of course, when you plug your EV, you know, because you have everything on the same platform and an energy meter installed, then of course the AI will also know there is an EV. So when electricity prices are very low, rather than exporting power to the grid, you can direct the power to the EV, for example. So it's not quite a vehicle to grid concept, but you still can use your battery to optimize your home inside your vehicle, you know, just with the AI on itself.
Absolutely. And I mean, in Germany, we have already a test with a first bidirectional ready charger. But as you said, same situation in Germany. We are not ready from regulation side. So hopefully in future, right? But again, I think it underlines what you said earlier. With 1K5, you have a bundle which is really ready for the future, right? And whenever there's a new regulation or a new innovation, it's uploaded, so to say, over the air to your energy system. So
100%, and you know, and I would say that this is really our differentiation in Finland compared to most other companies. Is that we have an insight into the German market, you know, to the most mature markets, you know, such as Holland, Australia. So we can see that these things are coming. So every time we introduce a product into the market, is with in mind that this will also come, and when it comes, then your products are not obsolete. You know, it's a software update, and then you're into the new tariff, you're into the new energy, or whatever the case might be. You know, so having access to the more mature markets, it gives us a huge advantage, because when it comes as a surprise to the customers or to the other companies, we have known it all along, and then we have prepared for it, and we are ready to go.
Amazing. Here you can see how we connect really hardware with a software model, right? Like, because here it's quite common that you have new updates and a new app, right? And so on. It's not, that this hardware is now shit because you bought it in the past. It's amazing to see how we connect both sides here.
It's the perfect marriage, you know. It's really the, you know, the coolness of the hardware, you know, it's the greatness of the software, the AI, and it's all in this, you know, beautiful bundle that, you know, you'll get the most out of.
So now I imagine you knocked on my door, you convinced me. My question is, how is it about referral? More the vibe of referrals in your country. Is it common that I'm convinced, I'm super happy with that product, and now I tell my neighbors, do a party and tell my neighbors about that? Is that a thing in Finland or not?
Well, Finns are pretty reserved,
okay,
you know.
I
would say that we do have ambassador customers that, you know, to love to recommend us, and, you know, we continue to get repeat business for the good work we did. But, you know, I feel that just culturally, you know, you have to do a super stellar job, you know, that that you're able to get recommendations. But you know, I would say that we're getting better at that.
Interesting. I thought we are tough. So
yeah, Finns are pretty tough. And if it's cold in the winter, they're even more tough.
So we talked a lot about the heat pump, the battery, also the car, the electric car, right? Is the sauna the biggest, so to say, energy consumer in the house?
Well, it can be. It can be. You know, I think the real true Finnish sauna is still heated with wood.
Okay.
But a lot of the new homes and a lot of the apartments, they still heat with electricity. And, you know, and sauna in Finland is holy. It's very important. You know, I would say you have not met, you know, a true Finn until you have been, you know, into sauna with them. Oh. And I also want to add a disclaimer that, you know, Swedish saunas, they have nothing on us. That the Finnish sauna is the real deal. You know, it's so funny because, you know, you walk around and Finnish people are so reserved. You walk past, you know, the bus stops, they're so far away from each other. But when, you know, this nation gets in the sauna, it's good times. You know, everybody's so chatty, you know, they're so happy, and everybody's enjoying a beverage, you know,
maybe we should referral parties there.
That, you know, would generate a lot more referrals than any other party, absolutely.
And I heard the most important business decisions are made in the sauna. Is that true?
Apparently seems to be the case, yes. You know, like back in 2022 when we were going through the process of consideration if we were going to, you know, do the move and join with 1KOMMA5, you know, it was most of the hard negotiations with Philip. It did happen in the sauna, and, you know, and I thought to myself, you know, this guy is German, he doesn't know real sauna, so I'm going to take him there, I'm going to break him down, and we're going to get what we want. But he's a tough cookie, you know, he outlasted me in the sauna. By the end of it, I was, okay, I need to get out to take it. And then, yes, it was amazing.
What would be a wish, if you could have one wish? What is needed right now? Is it help with communication? So, because, I mean, door-to-door education, right? It is intense when it comes to time. I mean, you're doing an amazing job. What would be a wish where you would say, like, this would help that maybe more people learn, let's call it faster, and be educated faster?
Well, I would say that we, you know, from a consumer perspective, my biggest wish, you know, for the market would be that we get out of the short-term thinking, right? That, you know, still having, you know, a lot of competition, a lot of fragmented market, that, you know, companies, they are coming in and they are price fighting, right? So then we are getting to the bottom of who is going to sell me this device for the cheapest possible way. And what we are saying is that, okay, let's fast forward 5 years and let's look back to this very day. You know, for the sake of an extra 1,500 euros, 2,000 euros, will you look back in 5 years and have wished that, hey, I took the cheapest of what was available at the time, you know, with no AI involved, with lower battery cycles, you know, and in 5 years, potentially a battery already without a warranty?
Yes. Or
would you look back 5 years and say, I'm so glad I went with a provider which can give me a much higher, you know, battery warranty, that now it's 15 years versus 5, you know, that an inverter that matches that with 15-year warranty. And that's very much what we try to take the vision. And then, of course, price is always important. People take more offers and you want to make sure that you're getting the best offer out there. Yeah. But, you know, since the beginning of times, the best offer is never the cheapest offer. It's the offer that will give you the best value. So, you know, again, we are trying to shift out of that mentality of let's just do it quick and do it cheap to let's do it properly and make sure that this will deliver what we set out to deliver in the first place.
And if you look further into the future, what is your big vision, your new energy vision for Finland?
Personally, I would like to be able to continue to do what we do with the success that we are having, but at a higher scale, right? At the moment, you know, especially when we're looking at our neighbors in Sweden, I know the amount of energy systems that they are able to deploy is much higher. So for me, the end goal would be that this becomes a household knowledge, that having access to our entire new energy market, it's the only way forward, and be able to do that countrywide at a scale. And together with that, like most of other European countries, they have utility licenses. And my final vision would be that we become your one-stop shop for your entire energy ecosystem, that we can provide you an energy tariff that is only down to you. We can provide you a heat pump, we can provide you PV, we can provide batteries, we can provide a car charge. So it's your last ever energy provider and will be within our ecosystem. That's our ultimate vision here for the Finnish market.
Absolutely, and can only really underline that, because if we think that vision, then country by country, how strong Europe is, and with independent energy, and exactly what you said right now, with that flexibility thing. How do you motivate yourself every day in order to achieve, to turn that vision into reality?
Honestly, I'm pretty motivated as an individual. You know,
I can feel that.
I don't like I don't need motivation, and it's a bit cliche, but you know, like I love this, you know, and I have loved it from the beginning. You know, I feel so absolutely privileged to be able to combine something that I am being good at with something that is my passion. But ultimately something that makes a difference, right? Something that when the page turns, we can look back and we are proud of what we accomplished. You know, not from a financial perspective, but from a perspective that we will leave a legacy behind. We have already, and the amount of renewable energy that we deploy today, you know, like I can never get enough of it. You know, it's like a drug running in my system. You know, I cannot wait to get up the next day and just do it all over again. You know, I love it.
Amazing. Wow, how interesting is it to dive that deep in a Nordic market like Finland? I've learned a lot about the culture, how important education is, that door-to-door sales is a big thing, and by the way, Germany, yes, it is getting warm with heat pumps in winters with minus 30 degrees. Every second Finnish household has at least one. Ricardo's wish for the future: we need to stop to be short-term thinkers and providers. So 1K5 is your last energy subscription and new energy provider you will ever need.